You know that feeling on a Monday morning? That incredible burst of motivation where you think, this is it. This is the week I'm going to change everything. But then, Wednesday rolls around and it's all gone. Well, in this explainer, we're going to get into the science of why that happens and, way more importantly, how to actually make your goals stick for good.
It's a cycle we all know so well, right? At the start of a new week, you feel like you can conquer the world. But a couple days later, that fire is gone and the old habits are right back where they were. Yeah, if that sounds familiar, you are so not alone.
Believe it or not, that feeling has a name. It's called the fresh start effect. It's a real psychological thing where these symbolic beginnings, a Monday, the first of the month, a birthday, give our brains a kind of clean slate. It lets us mentally separate from our past failures and really pumps up our optimism that this time things will be different. But here's the catch. The fresh start effect is just that, a start. It's a temporary boost. It's an amazing launch pad for sure, but it is not going to carry you all the way to the finish line. For real, lasting change, we have to look past that initial high and dig into the science-backed strategies that actually, work.
And look, the stakes here are incredibly high. Behavioral economist Katie Milkman points to this pretty staggering statistic from a medical school study. A full 40% of premature deaths come from daily behaviors that are totally within our control to change, things like diet and exercise. This isn't just about being more productive. This is about adding years to our lives.
All right, so to make those lasting changes, we first have to understand the machine we're working with, our own brain. And neurobiology gives us this really powerful way to think about it, breaking down our motivation into 3 totally different systems.
Okay, first up we've got type A, which is the wanting system. This is your dopamine system kicking in. It's the engine in your brain that's always seeking out pleasure, rewards, and new experiences. It's that thrill of the chase, that excitement of exploring. You often see it in kids and young adults, just driving them to learn and try everything.
Then there's type B, the avoidance system. This is basically our internal alarm bell. It's our fight or flight response, and it's motivated by one thing: escaping pain and reducing stress. This system really tends to take over in midlife, when our focus shifts to protecting the things we've worked so hard to build.
And finally, there's type C, the non-wanting system. This one's the quietest of the bunch. It's not about chasing something or running away from something. It's just about being. It's all about contentment, connection with others, and that feeling of inner calm. It's a state of deep satisfaction with what is.
So, what does this all mean for the goals we set? Well, a huge study from the NIH found a clear winner. Goals that are approach-oriented, the ones that tap into that wanting system, are way more successful. So instead of telling yourself, I will stop eating candy, try framing it as, I will start eating a piece of fruit every day. That positive framing makes a world of difference.
Okay, so now that we know why our brains work this way, let's get to the good stuff, how we can actually hack our goals and engineer our own success.
I love this quote from Katie Milkman because it perfectly explains a brilliant strategy called temptation bundling. The idea is so simple but so effective. You take something you love, like binging a great audiobook or podcast, and you only let yourself do it while you're doing something you kind of dread, like working out. By linking them together, you can turn a total chore into something you actually look forward to. Another huge game changer? Structure. These vague goals like, I want to get in shape, are pretty much designed to fail. Instead, you got to use the SMART framework. Make your goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Research shows that just adding this level of clarity makes you up to 42% more likely to succeed. It turns a fuzzy wish into an actual concrete plan.
And this leads to a really, really important point. A goal is not a plan. A plan is the step-by-step roadmap. And the most effective plans use what psychologists call if-then statements. You're not just saying you'll go to the gym. You're deciding ahead of time that if it's 5 p.m. on a Thursday, then you will go to the gym. You're literally building a little instruction manual for your future self.
Look, these individual hacks are fantastic, but for real long-term consistency, you need to go a step further. You need to build robust systems that make these good behaviors almost automatic.
This is where something called the goal gradient effect becomes your best friend. It's this simple psychological principle that our motivation goes through the roof the closer we get to a finish line. A goal to volunteer 200 hours a year, that feels huge and far away. But a goal to volunteer 4 hours this week? That's totally doable. You get that little win, that little dopamine hit every single week, which keeps you going. Breaking big goals down is absolutely key.
And to make all this happen, you can lean on some proven productivity systems. A great one is habit stacking.
You just link a new habit you want to build to one you already have. For example, right after I brush my teeth, I will meditate for 2 minutes. The old habit becomes a trigger for the new one. The point is to find a system that gives you the structure you need to turn these small actions into lifelong habits.
All right, let's zoom out for a second. Because all these goals, all these systems, they're really all in service of something much bigger, aren't they? The pursuit of happiness. And it turns out the path to happiness over a lifetime takes a very surprising shape.
It's fascinating. Researchers have found this consistent pattern all across the world called the U-curve of happiness. Our life satisfaction tends to start really high when we're young, driven by all that type A wanting. Then it dips down in midlife, a period often dominated by type B stress and responsibility. But then, something amazing happens. It starts to climb back up in our later years, reaching a whole new peak of type C contentment.
And this leads to something incredible, known as the satisfaction paradox. As we get older, our happiness seems to become more resilient. It kind of detaches itself from external stuff, even from our own physical health. Satisfaction becomes less about what's happening to us and more of an internal state of being.
So, what does all this mean? It really boils down to one powerful question. If our motivations and our happiness can change so dramatically over our lives, does that mean we have some control over it? Can happiness actually be learned?
And the science is pretty clear on this one. The answer is a huge, resounding yes. Happiness is not some fixed factory setting you're born with. It is a skill. And just like any other skill, with conscious practice, by setting the right kinds of goals, building good systems, and focusing on connection, it's something that can be trained, shaped, and strengthened over your entire life.